Okay.
Okay.
3rd of October, Rabbi Levitt, Pele Yoetz. Rabbi, I wanted to ask you a question. I was reviewing on Shabbos what we were learning last week, and I mentioned Mayim Achronim, and I said that it's an obligation, it's not just a custom, it's an obligation according to what we learned. And so my wife asked me, is that an obligation for men only?
Ah, very good. This is a discussion. We can there's a few I saw in the my Mishnah Berurah in the Dirshu. The Mishnah Berurah doesn't discuss it, but the Dirshu of the Mishnah Berurah, he brings contemporary poskim on the matter. So so we can if you want, we could finish that up, since we were doing the that's what we were doing.
Yeah, I'd like to, because it seems to me that the two things we learned about with the dirty hands, certainly the dirty hands can apply to a woman, and the salt of Sodom making you blind, I would think that would be also equally applicable to a woman.
Yeah. Okay, so let me get the Mishnah Berurah. This is a Mishnah Berurah in Chelik Beis.
Good morning, Mayor. You're on mute. Mayor, you're on mute.
Okay, now I'm on unmute.
Now you're fully in.
Fully in. Good morning, Alan.
We're trying to connect.
Well, you know what they say, sometimes you don't know whether you're coming or going.
Right. Morning.
Okay, so
Roy.
we're going to be in bed.
You see each
Morning,
other.
Roy.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Good morning, Rabbi Levitt.
Good morning, Roy. Good morning to everybody. Good morning, Alan. We already said good morning to Alan. We could say it again. And good morning to Lou and to Mayor.
Good morning. Good to vote.
Good to vote.
Shavuot Tov.
Ezrat Hashem. Yeah. Okay, so we are in Kuf Pei Aleph, Siman Kuf Pei Aleph, Mayim Achronim.
Hey,
Right. Okay, so we're looking for right. Okay, so
Where are we? What are we doing?
okay, we were last on Friday we were doing the Mayim Achronim, because the Pele Yoetz, he exhorted us to fulfill the mitzvah of the sages and wash Mayim Achronim after a Suda.
Right. What page was that?
In the Pele Yoetz, it's on page 55.
55. Oh, I'm on page 56. That's why I couldn't see it. Right, okay.
Yeah, we actually did go. I think we actually even finished the whole section over here, the entry of eating and drinking. But we have a question over here, which is a very appropriate question to ask. We're saying that the Mayim Achronim is an obligation. Is this an obligation that that Chazal made on women as well as men? Okay, so like it says, like the Mishnah Berurah says in Sifkat and Chaf Beis, Mishnah Berurah brought the the words of the Vilna Gaon in his commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. And the Vilna Gaon said that certainly there's an obligation to do my Makronim today, also today, because both reasons for doing the mitzvah of my Makronim, according to the Gaon, apply today as well. The Melech Sodomis, the danger of getting Melech Sodomis in the eyes, and also the Yadayim Mezuhamos, the unclean hands as a result of eating the food and drinking the drink from the Suda. So over here, the Mishnah Berurah doesn't mention anything about this specifically, but there's an, I don't know if anybody has a Dirshu Mishnah Berurah, but the Dirshu has a whole section on the side of the Mishnah Berurah, every page filled with different rulings of contemporary poskim. So I'll just read to you and translate what it is that we have over here. So it says, "Ubechiyav nashim b'mayim achronim," in regard to the matter of the obligation of women to wash mayim achronim. Kosav b'mor uksia. Oh, so this is not a contemporary posek. This the Mor Uksia goes back a couple hundred years, I believe. I don't, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of the very well-known poskim on the Shulchan Aruch. He says, "Sheyesh hanogos shelo lahakpid bezeh." There are women who are accustomed to not be particular with this washing, my makronim. Ubatama davar kasav, and the reason for this is shehu mishum shenashim shalanu istonios ve'ena nogos b'machal basuda. Women are more fastidious than men are in regard to their suda. And they don't get they don't touch the food with their hands at the Suda that's in the way that men do. And so therefore they don't have unclean hands at the end of the Suda, and they don't have an issue of Melech Sodomis either for that reason. Ulam, however, Osan she'enom zehiros lecho b'kafu mazleg. However, those who are not who do not all the time make sure that they use a fork or a spoon when they're eating. And on that account, of course, their hands are coming in contact with the food, and therefore their hands are filled with the remains of the food. Chayavos litol es yodehem b'mayim achronim kamo anashim. If so, then they would be obligated equally, just as men, to wash mayim achronim. Okay, so that's the Mor Uksia. Okay, so now we get to one of the contemporary poskim, Amnam Das Hagon Rav Yosef Shalom Eliashu. He's on record as saying, Sha'af hanashim chayavos b'zeh. Yes, women are also obligated in the mitzvah of my makronim. The King Kasav Agon Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. And also Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach writes similarly, Ella shehosif sheitakein sheosa nashim she'ena makpidos mistamchos al masa hamova b'gemora shemai makronim otziu isha bibala ve'af hogu es hanefesh mishum kein nimnaos milakabel al atzman netila zu. Avomidina ein lehen al mi lismo. Oh boy, what's happened over here? Now we have a Gemara to look up. He mentions a Gemara over here. Appears in two places. Okay, we'd have to take a look at that Gemara. Not sure exactly from the words of the note what it's some type of an explanation of why it is that they did not accept upon themselves to take on to do my makronim. Avomidina ein lehem al mi lismo. But in fact, this Shlomo Zalman in any case says that they don't really. It's not an excuse for them. They should have to wash my makronim as well. So we have two contemporary poskim. The two main contemporary poskim, Rav Eliashiv and Rav Shlomo Zalman, who hold that women are obligated. Amnam, however, Rishut Shevet Levi. This is from the Rav Shmuel Vosner Zatzal, also one of the premier contemporary poskim of recent years. Was nifter about 5-10 years ago. Kosav sheminhag ha'olam hu she'ein hanoshim notlos es yadehem. He states that the overwhelming practice of women is that they do not wash my makronim. And what is the basis for that? Is that simply is that a are they doing right in that they're not washing? So he says, "V'hu al pi hashulchan aruch shebizmanenu ein tekanas mayim makronim shayechet klal ela shahanoshim machmirim la'atzmam anoshim lo kiblu zos aleihen." He seems to be saying that the present custom of women to not wash is based upon what the Shulchan Aruch said, that in our days, the tekana of my makronim is not relevant at all. Now that was the view of that would not be like the Vilna Gaon. But so then why do men do it? Because they are stringent in the matter, and women are not stringent in the matter.
I don't get that. We started off previously by saying it's a chov. So if it's a chov, it's a chov. What does it matter whether you're stringent or not? You got to do it.
Yeah. So correct. The truth to be told is that I assume that what he's referring to over here is if you look in Sif Yud, that this was the last Sif in the Siman of my makronim, that the Shulchan Aruch said yesh she'ein nogim lito my makronim. That's what he says over there. In other words, it's some he does the main view of the Shulchan Aruch is that it is an obligation. That's the first thing he said. The last thing he said is, oh, there are those who are accustomed not to wash. And the Mishnah Berurah said because they hold that the two reasons that we mentioned are not relevant today.
I can understand the Melech Sodom being not relevant if you want to say that it doesn't exist anymore. But dirt, grease on your fingers is just as relevant today as it ever was.
Well, if people do eat with their hands and they get their hands filled with the food, then that's certainly so. So if they use cutlery, so then they could maintain that our hands do not get dirty from the food.
It's extremely rare to see someone eating bread with a knife and a fork. We dip the bread in salt. So I would think that alone would tell us that it's relevant.
Well, I mean, bread is dry. It's not something that needs to be taken off with water.
Uh-huh.
What happens if you put hummus on top of the bread?
Yeah, if you right, if you
Then-
have
then
right,
you
if you
might,
have,
then you probably will need it.
yeah, right. I would tend to agree.
Mine tends to spill over the edges.
Okay, so I guess it depends how careful you are to not get these things on your hands,
That's
the
true.
food on your
Okay,
hands.
very
But
good.
this idea of being an instanus, is that equally applicable to men and women? If a man is very fastidious, is he legitimate? Does he have a legitimate basis for saying, I don't wash my achronim because I'm an instanus?
Well, not according to the Vilna Gaon. According to the Vilna Gaon, even if we say that his hands are perfectly clean because he used a knife and a fork, the Vilna Gaon still says that the reason of Melech Sodomus is still relevant today.
And would the Vilna Gaon say that applies equally to women?
Presumably, I would say that is the basis for Rabbi Elyashiv and Rav Shlomo Zalman is the Vilna Gaon.
So Rabbi Elyashiv and Rabbi Shlomo Zalman are contemporary people who were recognized as being the Gedolei Hador of their time. So it would seem that if the two of them both have this opinion, that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. Therefore, oh, you mean why?
Therefore,
we
why
don't
is it that
see
people
women
don't do it?
wash. We
I'm
don't
sorry.
see that women wash their hands. Yeah.
Right,
We don't see
yeah.
it.
It seems to me that it's very, very, very common for women not to wash.
True.
But aren't there a lot of other rulings that people don't do, or some people don't do? Human nature. I don't know.
Like what, Roy?
I don't know. Just, I don't know. I have to think of something. Maybe you could think of something. But there are, I'm sure a lot of things that, I mean, some people don't get dressed in the order that you're supposed to get dressed.
You don't
Whatever,
side first?
whatever. Yeah, some people don't do that. Some people do it in a different way. But with that, with the washing of the hands, that seems to be something that's been done and not done.
Well, I mean, would have to look into the particular item and see, is it a custom? Or is it a chov? Because I mean, I just presumed that Mayim Achronim was a custom, and that's why women didn't do it. But
Same here.
when we learned that it's a chov, I became a little bit surprised. And then my wife said, well, you know, if it's a chov, then is it a chov for everybody, or is it a chov only for men? And that's how we got to this question.
Mm. I don't know.
I think in general, if something is a chov in the Shulchan Aruch, people do it. People who are observant do it.
Mm. I think that's where it is, that your level of observance determines which rulings are convenient for you, or that which rulings you feel comfortable with.
Right. Yeah, well, that's definitely true.
So when we say all women, do we mean literally every woman, or do we mean just all women who are generally observant?
I'm saying that it seems to me that women who are generally observant in many areas seem to be not observant in this one.
Let me get the blocks right from him.
Excuse me. Mm. Yeah. And what would someone say who is generally observant, who doesn't do it? If you said to him, say it was a man, and you said to him, you know, this is a rule. This is a what do you call it?
Obligation.
Obligation. You're supposed to. It's a rabbinical obligation.
I don't think it's rabbinical.
No.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I
don't know.
learned from the Shulchan Aruch that it's a chov, meaning it's a Torah obligation.
Mhm.
I don't know. Rabbi can correct me.
Mm.
Oh, it's not a obligation. It's not a Torah mandated obligation. It's a takana d'Rabbanan.
Okay.
That's what that was what that's what the Pele Yoetz said, that person who violates the words of the sages is liable for the death penalty. So I think everyone understands that it's no more than a rabbinic obligation, but of course that doesn't explain either. It's people fulfill rabbinic obligations as well.
So doesn't that open up the question of the authority of the Rabbanim? in people's minds today.
You will be. Okay. Have a good day.
You wanna-
Okay.
Well, we have a rabbinic prohibition against eating chametz on Erev Pesach.
Mm.
There's a takana that makes the time limit earlier than the derisa.
Mm.
And I think everybody is very strict about that.
Yeah, but it seems to be selective what you're strict about.
Right.
Interesting why.
Yeah, I'm just looking right now, and when the Shulchan Aruch said on Sif Yud, he said Yesh she'ein nogim litol my makronim. And you look, there's a tiny Yud by the word Yesh, and that tiny Yud sends you to the Beragola. The Beragola, he's the one who supplies the sources for that you could look up the source to see what's the source for what the Shulchan Aruch is bringing. So where does the Beragola say that the source of this custom of not washing my makronim come from? He quotes Tosfos in the Gemara in Brachos.
That 4b.
Nun Gimel.
Gimel.
Nun Gimel. There's you see where it says in Sif Cut in Sif Yud, the last Sif in this Siman. It says Yesh she'ein nogim lito my makronim. And next to the first word Yesh, there's a little Yud. There's a little Yud before the word Yesh. See that Yud?
No, I'm not following.
I'm referring to the words of the Shulchan Aruch in this Siman on the din of my makronim, Kuf Pei Aleph, and in Sif Yud, which is the last Sif of the Shulchan Aruch. There's 10 Seifim.
I see it.
So there's a little Yud by the word Yesh,
Right.
and that little Yud sends you to the Beragola. Oh, now you want to know where the Beragola can be found. The Beragola is on the upper left-hand corner of the page.
Got it.
So now,
Tosafos
in
Sham Berchos Nun Gimel. I see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
so this is this issue of Melech Sodomus goes back a long way. And I believe that that's the issue of the Tosfos over there. But
Now it's interesting. It uses the word nohagim, accustomed. Because
right,
started out by saying it's a chov. And now it seems to be implying that it's a custom.
Okay, so there's the ones that hold that they're there's those that hold that it's an obligation, it's a chov, and there are those who hold it's not an obligation.
Ah,
But the question is, what's the reason why it's not an obligation? What's the basis for saying that it's not an obligation? That would and as a result of that, then it's reduced to a matter of a minhag. Because the only way that those that don't wash can justify not washing is because they would have to say it's not an obligation. It is simply a custom. And they further would say that we don't observe that custom.
I mean, how can you say it's not a chov when it's so plainly stated in the Shulchan Aruch?
Well, presumably this view would say that the takana of Chazal in my Machronim what was the reason for that? The reason for that was because of Melech Sodomus. And since Melech Sodomus doesn't, according to them, doesn't exist anymore, so then the whole reason for they understand that the takana of Chazal was when there's Melech Sodomus, so then we say that you have to wash my makronim. But if there's no longer any Melech Sodomus, so then we don't want you. We don't require you to wash your hands for nothing.
That raises two questions. One is, do they hold that there was Melech Sodomus at the time of the Shulchan Aruch and something changed between then and now? And the second question is, fine, that's Melech Sodomus, but there's two reasons. What about the greasy hands?
Yeah, the question of the Yadayim Mizuhamos, I'm not sure whether that we'd have to take a look in the Tosas whether he addresses that issue. I don't know when that issue let's see what the Mishnah Berurah has to say. He was actually quoted that as the first reason.
I don't usually stick to what we're doing. Once we've instituted something, we stick with it.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah, so this is also a whole subject of discussion. So it would seem very clear that the view that says that that we've just been speaking about, that says that it's not an obligation today, has to hold that that was the way that the Chazal originally made the takana. That in view of the fact that today there is Melech Sodomus in the time of Chazal, and it was a sakana, so therefore they made their takana. But those that say it's not an obligation today will have to say that they only made their takana for that circumstance when it was found. But if there'll be a time that that won't be found, so then there's no There's no takana to wash, even though the reason for the takana doesn't apply anymore. But my machronim is one of these mitzvahs that gets into this issue. That it would seem that that we can't deny, even though those that say that we don't have to wash today, there's no binding obligation. They would have to say that there was a point in history that it was a binding obligation when there was Melech Sodomus.
Right. But that still doesn't really help us very much with the issue of why women and men are treated differently. 'Cause everything we're saying here, I think, applies equally to women and men.
Well, I mean, we explain why. We explain why it is that that men are stringent and women are not stringent in the matter, because yeah, that's we already said that according to the Vilna Gaon, there would not seem to be any difference.
Right, and also Rabbi Eliashiv and Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach.
Right, but according to the Shevet HaLevi, basically what the Shevet HaLevi was doing is he was doing what we call being malamed zchus on the custom of women to not wash. In other words, he was trying to explain why it is that they don't wash.
Right.
He observed. First of all, he observed the fact that that women don't wash. It is in fact the custom of women to not wash. And then we just have to say what's the basis for that. So that was that would be according to what the Shulchan Aruch, not that the Shulchan Aruch held that, but that he brought that there was that view that that the takana of my machronim is not relevant today, because there's many that hold. I believe if we would look up that Tosfos, I believe that Tosfos, if I remember correctly, he himself stated that in his day he did not see that people were getting blinded from Melech Sodomus, and that therefore we see that that Melech Sodomus is not a concern today. And on that basis, so nevertheless, the men, and so now it's with the reason for the takana not being relevant, so now it becomes a matter of a stringency. So men were stringent in the matter to wash nevertheless, and women did not accept upon themselves to be stringent in that matter. But it seems to me that that's definitely what the Shevet HaLevi is doing. He's attempting to find some way to justify the custom of women today that we see that women do not perform the mitzvah of Mayim Achronim.
What does Melech Sadonis, is it, translate literally as?
It's a type of salt that seems to be originated from that area of Sodom,
Uh-huh.
and it apparently was if it got it in the eyes, it could be very
Right, yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I would assume that the only reason that Chazal made that takana was because there were instances of such thing happening. That they knew that it was such a thing.
But that salt then wouldn't be everywhere. But the ruling would apply everywhere.
You're asking would you be able to find such salt in Europe or in America?
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't. I think it would be worthwhile to take a look at this Tosfos if you're still interested in
I would
the
like
matter.
to.
He's really this. I believe that he's really the source of this of the view that it's not a binding obligation today to wash Mayim Achronim. So just could be there's a couple places in Brachos that Tosfos speaks about it. We could start off with Brachos Nun Gimel,
That's 63,
53.
53.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go now.
11:32.
Oh, it's already time. Okay,
Anytime.
we're all gonna have to go.
Tomorrow is another
Okay.
day.
Tomorrow, Brachot Nun Gimel. Okay.
Ezrat Hashem. Okay, very good.
Excellent.
You've got the page, Brachos 53, right?
Yeah, that's what the Baragola brings over here.
Mhm.
And yeah, I actually also have something that my Rosh Hashiva spoke about. Maybe I even have it on tape about my Makronim from the Maharal.
Mhm.
He has a whole discussion about this matter as well, even from a halachic perspective, as well as from I guess a Bezrat Hashem, and
Yes.
we'll be back
Hashem.
shortly. Bezrat Hashem.
Okay.
All right.
See you, Mayor. Bye.
See ya.
Hey, be well, Roy.